Okay.
Okay, so I'll start off a little bit. Marge asked me to talk a little bit about my history and where I'm from and all that kind of stuff, which actually has a lot to do with what I'm doing today. So I was born in the beautiful country of Tanzania, which is on the East African coast. And we immigrated to Canada when I was 3 years old. So I'm bred Canadian. And really, I think my birth country and my home country have really led me to where I am today, which is, often how you see things where your history becomes your present. And, Tanzania really is known as a country for social justice. It's been the peacemaker in Africa since its beginning. And was involved in many social justice movements like the liberation of Uganda and South Africa. Nelson Mandela's second home was in Tanzania, and Tanzania was instrumental in the whole apartheid movement. My father personally was very involved with Nelson Mandela. So I saw social justice as a child, and my country of birth really trained me to get involved in that as a passion. And so that's been my passion since I was a child. And when we immigrated to Canada, of course, our doors opened up. That's why we came here for a better life. And thank God my parents chose Canada because we were looking at the United States and things would have been very different. So I'm very happy that we're here. And yeah, I went to university in Toronto, studied business and marketing. Like most South Asians, our parents encourage us to go into business. So I did it because my parents told me to, didn't really know what I was going to do with it. But after university, I spent a lot of time traveling the world. And I'm so pleased that I did that. I traveled to many countries, spent many years in the Middle East working in the refugee camps. And so I spent quite an adventurous life in my younger years. But again, that opened my eyes up to social justice. That really opened my eyes up to what the rest of the world looks like and how people don't live like we do in Canada, and how there are so many victims of political movements and fake news and all of that stuff. And I saw it firsthand how people actually suffer from the things that are going on. And so that really just trained me even more and made me more determined to do something with my life that was a passion. And then out of nowhere, out of the cold, just came in play. And in 2005, the faith communities in York Region wanted to set up this program, and they were looking for a consultant. And so I applied for that position. And there you go. My parents were correct that my education in business and marketing would be very helpful. And so, yeah, my parents are always right. I admit that now. And so I really used my development background to kind of pick up this project in 2005. And we started off with 4 faith communities at that time that were running this shelter. And I took that on and kind of built this program. So we set up a nonprofit charitable organization called Mosaic Interfaith Out of the Cold. And my dream really was to see this project that these faith communities were operating grow into a real grassroots organization where many communities would join, where we could become an advocacy group for people struggling with homelessness and poverty, and where we could really just collaborate and work together as a community. Because government cannot and will not solve all our problems. I always knew that. And I always knew the power of people and the power of communities. And so that was really my dream, 2005, was to set up this organization and see it grow and see people take on the challenge of people struggling with poverty in our own communities. And so through setting up Mosaic as a charitable organization, we kind of grew it from there, and we started advocating for funds, and we set up Out of the Cold as a real network and a collaborative organization, centrally coordinated by Mosaic. which really helped because now churches and mosques and synagogues could join and operate shelters with a turnkey operation. They didn't have to worry about funding. They didn't have to worry about logistical planning and things like that. So Mosaic really is the central body. We do all of the logistical work. We raise all of the money. We do all the PR. We do all the volunteer training. And the only thing the faith communities have to do is bring in their space, their volunteers, and have a wonderful time running this program. And so it worked beautifully. And we grew from 4 communities to 14 locations now. We used to serve 150 people. Now we serve over 500 people every winter season. And we have a coalition of over 50 communities that come together every winter to participate in the Out of the Cold. So it really has become an amazing organization with wonderful interfaith communities. We've got many churches of different denominations. We've got a synagogue, we've got mosques, 1,500 volunteers, and myself as the only staff person. But it is an absolutely phenomenal program. And those of you that have either been involved or seen it, you'll see that it's not really a shelter for the homeless. It really is a space of family where people that don't have family and that are marginalized can come in and receive the love and the respect and the dignity that they've never received in life. And that's our way to really guide people through the system. Any of us can be there and can end up there. And so, or you may have a brother or a sister or a child that's experienced poverty. So it is our problem, and that's how we approach it at Out of the Cold. So before COVID, we had all of our 13 sites operating, and so every night of the week, I have an amazing job where I can go to a church or a mosque or synagogue and be amongst angels of this earth, because that's really all the people that come to Out of the Cold, and I've been so blessed that this was put on my plate. But I really get to spend time with amazing people, and that includes our clients. Some of my best friends are homeless people, and I've learned so much from them as well. But every winter we get together and we run these shelters, and we offer 50 beds normally, and full meal programs. We serve a full dinner, which is served by mostly women. We do have men in the kitchen at some of the sites, but it's a lot of women, and they make these beautiful home meals, and we have a family dinner together, and we have a clothing bank, and we have a transportation, a bus that usually takes people to all the different locations. We've got a medical program with doctors and nurses, all volunteers that come in. Some of our sites, like the Chinese church, the Toronto Christian Community Church in Markham, they have an ophthalmology clinic. We have hairdressers that come in at certain sites. So each site has something beautiful to offer. And through that program, we really are able to bring people. Our main mandate is to get them off the streets in the winter, but our secondary mandate is really to help people socialize, be part of the community, have a family, and also in that way we can guide them towards other referrals such as housing and mental health supports, and things like that. So we are an emergency program. When COVID happened, of course, it threw everybody into a tailspin. We were forced to close down all of our sites in the middle of March, which was heartbreaking because we did that on a day where the Chinese church was operating on a Sunday, and we had to close the doors all of a sudden, and we had 50 people at the door just begging for shelter. And if it was hard for all of us, I cannot even express how difficult it was for people on the streets. I personally was in tears that Sunday because I could not bear to make that decision, knowing that there would be 50 people at the door. But we had to make that decision in order to protect our sites and our volunteers. But I had 50 people at the door, people calling my phone saying, where do we go? Being in the parking lot, and it was very cold that day. There was nowhere for anybody to go. And so that was really heartbreaking. I was actually in tears all day. But we decided through the grace of God and through the kindness of one of our sites, the Rouge Valley Mennonite Church, that called us and said, you have to open and use our church. And so we were so grateful. And within a day, we were able to open at the Rouge Valley Mennonite Church the next day. Without volunteers, we hired staff to take over all the volunteer responsibilities, serving the food. We got a caterer to serve the food. We hired additional staff to do all the security work and the support work. And thankfully, we were able to open an emergency shelter very quickly with 25 beds. So our capacity was cut in half, but at least we were able to get some people coming in. And we operated at the Mennonite Church 7 days a week until the middle of May. And that was an eye-opening experience as well. We really got to see, like Peter said, the cracks in the system. And one of the greatest cracks is how we are dealing with poverty and people struggling with homelessness. And those cracks are very, very huge and very obvious now, I think, even to government. So what's been happening at the government level is interesting as well. Since March and the middle of May, even I think people in government realize that having people that are homeless just being on the streets and moving through the system is not good. We've been advocating for affordable housing for many years, and COVID really helped us a lot in that sense. It has sped up the process of getting people into affordable housing. All of a sudden, the conversation was not, we need affordable housing, but we need it right now. And that conversation is happening at all levels of government, so that is a really positive thing. And since March, the region of York really pulled in all of the agencies together at one table, which was another good thing. There was a lot of collaboration that came out of this, with agencies working together, with governments and agencies. And the amount of meetings, if I thought I was busy before, it's incredible how busy we are now, but it's good busy. So I've, got a lot of meetings, and we're meeting with the region every week and with other agencies. So a lot of talking happening, which is great. The region also has set up an emergency hotel type shelter, and that was set up in the middle of May. So most of our clients from out of the cold were transferred to the hotel. And that hotel shelter is located in King City. It's called Kingbridge Hotel and Convention Center. And the goal of the shelter is to be a transitional shelter. So it's a bit different. So in Toronto, they've got these motels, many of them. And what they've been doing is really just getting everyone off the street into these motels. So I was downtown the other day and, was amazed that there was no homeless people, or very few on the streets. Looks good. But really everybody has just been put into these temporary motels. Not the best idea, because what's happening is we've seen a lot of people that were housed have now left their housing to go into the motels because, hey, it's nice to be in a motel where you're going to get your meals and your room cleaned. And in Toronto, there are no curfews, so people can leave when they want and go wherever they want. And so a lot of people have actually left housing to go into the motels in Toronto. It's a temporary program, and I fear that after COVID, there will be a lot of people right back out on the streets, and perhaps even more than they had before. So in York Region, I think they've done a better thing. It's a better strategy. What they want to do in York Region is not just get everyone off the streets, but they've set up this transitional as a place where people can flow through. It is operated by the Salvation Army and the municipality of York Region. So there are a lot of supports at the transitional. They've got housing supports, mental health supports, EMS is working out of there as well. So all of these different support systems. But the idea is really to have out of the cold and the in from the cold, which are seasonal shelters, where people can come in. We are acting as a flow through. As are other agencies like Loft Community Services. So we're all working together. The idea is to bring people into our programs, to refer them to transitional, they will then receive housing support. And the goal is within 2 weeks to house them in more permanent ways. So it's a better strategy, and that's really what the region of York has been doing, is focusing on housing. But this focus on housing is happening at the municipal, provincial, and federal levels. Rapid rehousing is what they're calling it. They want to house everybody very quickly. Um, is it working? Well, kind of. So I think transitional since March has housed probably about 50 people, but seen hundreds go through there. But 50 is better than what we used to have, which was very few. It's a new process. So hopefully in time, we will get housing done. So that is a huge positive that's come out of the situation, is more collaboration with the agencies, government, and a more focus on what's important, and that is housing and poverty. And so I think the government, we've all learned from that. Um, it has been difficult. So now during COVID, we opened again in November, and we are operating at 2 locations, again, from the kindness of 2 of our partner sites. And Susan is part of one of them, Richmond Hill Presbyterian Church. We can't thank them enough. They've given us the church for 4 days a week. And we've got a new community partner, Ebenezer United Church, which has offered us space for 3 nights a week. So we're operating 7 nights between the 2 churches. Again, no volunteers, only our staff. And I have to say our staff are absolute angels. They have been doing work that is outside of their job scope, but they've been doing it with such kindness and dedication in an environment that is very dangerous. But we have managed to run the shelter. We only have 20 beds, so we're down capacity again, from 50 before to 20. It is a nighttime program, so during the day, no place for people to go. We have cut down all of the support services. So we have catered meals, and we have the place to sleep, but that's it. So all of the support services have stalled. And so that brings me to what it looks like for people that are struggling with poverty. It's terrible. And in March, we heard from people. I had a family meeting, which is what I like to call it, with my clients or our guests. So we have these regular family meetings, and they really do tell us what they feel and how it is. And I find that so valuable. But what they basically said is they felt like they were forgotten people before, and during COVID, they were forgotten even more. How they felt, any supports that they had before, mental health supports, food, internet, showers, washrooms, all the basic essentials disappeared. And it's been really difficult for people. They've been having difficulty finding beds and shelters. There are, I think, enough right now, but again, when you talk about shelters like ours, they can come and they can sleep and they can eat, but in the mornings at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, they have to leave. And like Donna was saying, Krasman is running a drop-in, but you can't let people come in per se, only a couple of people at a time. So it's really not a drop-in, it's a drop-by. And so there's still no places for people to go. And that is a gap that we identified in March, but unfortunately, nothing has been done about that. So Hortons is all closed down. The library is closed down. And so people literally are just outside at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I can just imagine how difficult that is if I was just to go outside at 8 and not know where to go until 4 or 5 p.m. Well, what do you do? So people have been sitting outside just waiting until we open up and 20 people can come in. There's a lot more people out there that have nowhere to go. Some of them are going to the subway at Finch Station and just sitting there. But you know, there's a whole host of problems. There's no shower facilities anywhere. People have not showered since March. So we have people begging us for shower facilities, and that's got a whole challenge in itself. So we are actually looking now, we've looked at a million options, none of them are working. So we're actually now looking at purchasing a mobile shower unit and putting it up at the church. But that's gonna, cost a bit of money, but we've been very lucky to have community support, so we were probably going to do that. But people have not showered in the mornings when they leave our shelter. They have no place to go to the washroom. So some of our guests were saying that they weren't eating breakfast, and we noticed they weren't eating breakfast. So we asked them why they weren't eating breakfast. Don't they like the breakfast? And they said, Rehana, when we leave here at 8 o'clock, we don't know where to go to the washroom, so we don't eat breakfast because we don't want to use the washroom. Um, we had another individual, Bill, who said he has a lot of medical issues, abdominal issues, and said that he feels very sick all day because he can't use the washroom. So it is a horrible, horrible situation. The mental health has deteriorated significantly. I am surprised myself once we opened. I knew it was going to be worse because people have lost touch with their mental health supports. They've lost touch with family because they don't have internet at the libraries anymore. They can't access Facebook and all those sorts of things. That was their only social contact. They've lost contact with each other, which is the saddest part, because on the streets, they were friends with each other and they could see each other and support each other. And now they're saying they don't even know where their friends are because they've all just scattered. And so they've really been isolated and alone, and that mental health has deteriorated significantly. We are shocked to see the people coming through our doors. The level of addictions and mental health has just skyrocketed. So that's made it very difficult for us as well to manage. We are not trained to deal with severe mental health issues, so God bless our staff for what they're dealing with. So those are just some of the problems. The amazing, really, really good things is the community that has come out, and that's all of you and our faith partners. I have just been overwhelmed with support from the churches, and it has been such a blessing. All of our churches and our mosques and our synagogues have been donating somehow in some way, financially or with food, or even a lot of people that are here today. We had jewelry donated, and people have been donating just a little bit here and there, and so that has really been overwhelming, the community support, and I thank everybody for that. And the other good thing, so this is very exciting in 2020, out of the cold, because I'm the only staff person, I've been struggling to sustain this massive network for 20 years. And, I'm getting older as well, and we all know what that is like. So who knows what it's going to look like. And so this baby of mine, I've always been worried about what's going to happen to it in the future. It's such a beautiful program, and has so much growth potential. There's so much more that we can do. And I just could not do it on my own. So the sustainability question was out there for a long time. And once again, the universe or the Lord, whoever it is that you want to go to, answered the prayers. And so we are merging with Blue Door, which is an amazing organization. And they have a long-standing reputation of providing services to families, youth, and individuals. They have many different shelter programs operating. And so Michael Braithwaite, who many of you may know, is a real champion, a real angel, and somebody that I'm honored to work with. He comes into organizations and transforms them. And so Michael and I had a chat, and we decided to join forces. And so Out of the Cold and Blue Door will be merging as of May 1st. And that's really exciting because that is going to bring a lot of support and resources and sustainability to Out of the Cold. And it's going to bring the community, all of you, to Blue Door. And so I think we're going to be able to leverage our programs and our services and bring everything under one roof, so that our emergency program will no longer just be an emergency program. We will have the housing and the support coming from Blue Door, and we're going to be merging these services with the goal of rapidly rehousing people that come through our doors. So that's really exciting. We want to see people getting housed, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this merger. It will not change Out of the Cold in any way. That was one of my conditions, is I want to maintain Out of the Cold with the community feel, with all of the partners. They have their own programs, and that's how it's going to remain. I am not leaving. I'm still going to be here um, as long as I can be here. And so really the program will not change. So if anybody is operating it or supporting it, it is going to maintain its identity. Any funding that comes in will again be directed only to Out of the Cold. So we're not mixing any of that. It's just the resources and the collaboration. And we're hoping that that will have a great outcome for the clients that we serve. So that, Marge, is I think the two things that I would say were amazing in 2020 is the community collaboration and how people have really come together, and Blue Door and our exciting merger in 2021. So the last thing I guess I'll say is please join Coldest Night of the Year. It's going to be an exciting virtual walkathon. And we do need the funds. Our costs associated in COVID were literally triple what we normally spend for Out of the Cold. Normally our budget is about 400,000. It was 400,000 just for the 4-month winter period. So the costs are astronomical, and we do need support. Of course, the municipality of York Region is fantastic, and they provide 80% of our funding, but there's always a gap of 20, and that's where Coldest Night fills in. So please join. March has a team. SEMA has a team, so you can join one of the teams. We have a team too called Mosaic, but I would encourage you to join Marge's team and SEMA's as well. So hopefully we'll see you all on February 20th.